Also, should anyone wish it, the automatic subtitles are on, so you can go into your Zoom controls and turn on the subtitling. It's actually pretty good. I don't know why YouTube can't get one this good. Okay, so there's Bob. We are going to talk about the little man in Canvas, the accessibility checker, as well as 4 other accessibility external tools, the Wave tool, Popetek, You Do It, and Ally. It's a lot to cover in an hour, so I'm gonna probably be talking pretty quickly because I want to make sure also there is time for questions should you have them. And this isn't intended to be a specific how-to, it's really more to introduce you to the tools so that you understand what's available to our system or to your college and can make an informed choice. So like any tool, all of these accessibility checkers that we're going to talk about today work when they're used correctly. They might create problems if they're used incorrectly, and they don't cover everything that you need to do to check on your pages for accessibility. Accessibility checkers are basically like robots. They cannot, for example, tell you which text should be formatted as a heading or whether your captions are accurate or not. So you're going to want to refrain from relying on any of accessibility checker so far, maybe someday, but for right now, you want to refrain from expecting them to generate appropriate descriptive link text. You also can't rely on them to create meaningful alt text. Some tools will take a stab at it, but they're typically not very accurate. So you also can't rely on them to determine when an image might be decorative or when it's been sufficiently explained in the text or anything like that. Most tools are not going to be able to provide the correct semantic structure, meaning the headings on a given page. They can tell you if you skipped a heading or if you started with an H3 instead of an H2, but they can't tell you if you've omitted a heading altogether. They also can't tell you which list style should be used, whether it's an ordered list or just a bulleted list. Although some tools, and I'll show you one at least, can tell you when something looks like it should be a list. And they also can't check in documents reading order for tables or PDFs or things like that. That comes into play for learners that are navigating with a keyboard rather than a mouse. Reading order really makes a difference. So those are all things that are going to need to basically be checked manually. Captions, of course, as well. But if you understand what each tool does, they can definitely make the task of checking for accessibility much faster and much easier. So the news that you've heard from us before, and you're going to hear it again, is that every page in a course needs to be checked to ensure that all of the elements have been formatted properly. The accessibility and checker in Canvas, as well as Popetek and the Wave tool, will give you a scan of individual pages. You Do It and Ally can give you a course level scan. Popetek has plans to add that capability into their tool as well. I don't believe they've done so yet. All of the tools have pros and cons, though I will admit I like some of them more than others, and I'm not shy about saying so. So the little man is part of the rich content editor. Most of you are probably already familiar with him. He checks common accessibility errors. As mentioned a moment ago, there are some limitations. It is great for tables, color, and even alt text, depending. You kind of have to know how to use it there. He's not so trustworthy for everything else. But when you add in Popeteks into the mix, checking and fixing Canvas pages suddenly becomes a whole lot easier. We're actually going to look at the Wave tool first before we go to Popetek, because Popetek is based on the Wave tool. So I want to introduce you to that, and then we'll be able to talk about Popetek a little bit more intelligently. So I'm going to go into Canvas now so we can actually look at some of these tools in action. You may already have it. If not, I'm going to put the link to Get Wave. It's a browser extension. And so you just go and it will automatically put it on your browser. It works for both Chrome and Firefox. It does not work for, or as I say, it does not play well with Internet Explorer. And I've had several people say, who does? So anyhow, it's only for Chrome and for Firefox. When you install it, and it takes 10 seconds to install, you will then see the little W up in the corner of your browser bar. So I'm going to turn it on, and I just want to alert those of you that have never seen the Wave tool. It initially looks a bit overwhelming. There are things you can ignore, which I'll mention, but just know that once you get used to looking at it, it's actually not as crazy as it might seem at the first time around. So when I click it on, it's actually reading the HTML of all of parts of this page. And that's why we could ignore part of it, because the top and the sides on the Canvas pages, we have no control over. That's part of the default interface. You can't edit it, so don't worry about it if it's telling you that there may be an alert or an error. All you're going to focus on is the center part of the page where you have the editing capability when you click the little edit button. So we can see on this page some information that the Wave tool is giving us. It's telling us that we've got an H1, which is perfect for the top, but then we've got an H3 and it alerts us. And if you're not sure what the alert is about, you can click in and it'll tell you, oh, you've got a skipped heading here. And as I mentioned, a lot of them aren't good about alt text. So it's giving me a green for alt text, even though if I look at it, fingers_group.jpg is not appropriate alt text. So it's what I like about the Wave tool is I can see if there are errors, and then I can go into the editor and fix them. If there's no errors, I don't even have to go into the editor. So the thing to know about the Wave tool, and again, I'm not trying to teach you everything, just want to give you an overview so you can understand when it might be appropriate and if it's a tool you want to get familiar with. It shows me what should and shouldn't be there. So for example, it's showing me I have a skipped heading, gives me an alert. It's not showing me anything here. And that's a factor because it should be showing me the H2. You'll see I've got my other headings are designated. The fact that this one doesn't have the H2 tells me that it's a faux heading and not properly formatted. So sometimes the Wave tool will tell you what's going on with an alert. Other times it's the absence of something that tells you there's a problem. So that's the Wave tool in a nutshell. I have created in the course design resources a page with a couple of tutorial videos on using the Wave tool, and I'm going to put that in chat. Some of you may already be familiar with it. Others, you can share it with your review team or whatever. It's basically looks like this, and it's got just some little tutorials that quickly shows you. I believe I made this with the old interface, so it may look slightly different if you're on Chrome. I think on Firefox it's still the same, but all of the functionality is the same. All right, so that was the Wave tool. Now, if we go into Canvas and open up the editor, if your school has enabled it, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but the Popetek has to be enabled in your college institution's instance of Canvas. The whole system is being given access to it courtesy of the Chancellor's Office via the Accessibility Center. But you have to request that it be turned on. It's a very simple integration, just like any of them. It doesn't take long, but it won't automatically be there by default until your school has turned it on. It is down here. It's this little stylized P. It's powered by the Wave Accessibility Checker, so it's going to look very similar. The difference is you're actually already in the editor, so you can fix the things that you're seeing that are wrong. Whereas in the Wave tool, you're just seeing what's wrong, and then you have to open up the editor and go in and fix them. So this is a little shortcut. When I click the Popetek tool, and they officially call it the Accessibility Guide, I've never heard anyone except a Popetek person call it that. So you may hear it called both things, but most people call it Popetek. It's kind of a more fun word to say than Accessibility Guide. So it gives me a list of errors and alerts when I click open a particular section, it will then show me what's going on. So it's telling me I have an empty link. It will then jump to that part in the page, except why am I not seeing it? I know there is an empty link here. I think it's right there. Anyhow, I'll talk about that one, hopefully, if someone has a question about more in a minute, but it will give you, oh, I see. It's not showing me because it's giving me the ability to fix it right here. If it were a link that I inadvertently deleted the text, but I actually wanted it to still be a link, I could just go ahead and put in the descriptive link text in the field right there. Or if I really did intend to delete it, but I somehow only deleted the text and not the link, I could just remove the link altogether. And it just basically takes you through. It'll give you information. So if you're not sure why something is a problem, you can click the little plus and it'll give you some information and details about why it's an issue and how to fix it. It will allow you to fix it right here in the Popetek interface. And it actually creates a permanent fix on the Canvas page, unlike Ally, which we'll talk about later. So this has some definite pluses in shortcutting what's going on with fixing pages. The one kind of drawback that I would see is that it is still page by page. So it doesn't give you that course level bird's eye view that you can get with UDoIt or with Ally. So I'm going to put something else in chat, which is the Popetek Accessibility Guide. No, you do not have to install Wave in order for Popetek to work. It's integrated into the Canvas interface, so it's separate, even though it's based on the Wave tool. And the other thing, I thought I had it here. I don't have it here. Okay, on the Local Poker resource site, which hopefully you're familiar with, if you go to the accessibility page, it has information about, just a little bit of information about each of these tools, but it does give you a link. If you click on the Popetek, it will give you a link to the page where it tells you the directions of how to contact the Accessibility Center and get the information for installing it or enabling it in your Canvas instance. You will most likely need to have your Canvas admin do that, depending on what your role is, but it's very simple to do. And all you have to do is ask for permission. Okay, good. I'm a little bit ahead of time. So let me see if there's other questions. Is Popetek free? Yeah, Popetek is free for now. I have not heard, and I don't know, Bob, if you know anything more than I've not heard any kind of until at this point. They've just said, for now, we are providing it for colleges.
Yes, heard word today. It's not much more than that, but the Don of the CCC Accessibility Center, they paid for it through June 30th. They've asked for funding for the coming academic year. They just haven't received their final budget yet. So she's waiting on that, but she did ask for funding to continue next year.
Great. Okay. So you definitely knew more than me. Vivian, tell me what you mean when you say, who do we ask again? Ask about what? How to get it installed?
I can install it just for licensing.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Who do we contact to get licensing to use it?
Right. So that's if you come to the Local Poker Resource Center and click on the Popetek page, it'll give you the directions and a link to, well, maybe it's not a link, but right here, a link to request it. So right there.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Basically, it's the Accessibility Center. You're going to contact them. All right. I'm not going to save any of these changes because I want to continue to use other tools that will show the errors on this page intentionally. So I'm in this OEI instance of Canvas, and in our instance, we have UDoIt enabled. I'll talk again in a moment about how you can get it. It has both a free and a paid premium version. It stands for Universal Design Online Content, though we ignore the C, inspection tool, so that they can come up with UDoIt. and it was developed by the University of Central Florida. It enables you to identify accessibility, and it will do a course scan, generate a report, and then provide resources on how to address common accessibility issues. It can happen right in Canvas, so you're not having to leave the interface. And there, let me give you, well, no, I'll not do that. I'm going to open it up, and it will take a moment to load. And then you'll see that it allows me to do a scan of either the entire course or just part of the course. And Cheryl Chapman, my colleague, always recommends just doing one section or one content type at a time. It's much less overwhelming to deal with a subset rather than to see if there are a lot of issues rather than to see all of them. So I'm going to start with just announcements. I just click it, I scan the course. It does its thing. We should ask them to add music. And yay, I have no errors in my announcements at all. So I can go back to the scanning options, and this time I'm going to choose pages and scan it again. And this may take a little longer because I have more pages than I do announcements. It is, okay, so there we go. So it's telling me I have 42 errors, 61 suggestions, and 0 unscannable files at this point. Errors are, well, you really should try to fix everything you can, but errors are the things that are going to be a make or break kind of situation for students with using, what do we call them? Not accessibility devices, but that's the only word that's coming to my mind. And then suggestions are things that are a really good idea to fix, but they probably aren't going to make the page unreadable to a student using assistive technology. That's it. So when I click on something, come over here to pages, it will then show me each of the pages where I have the errors and the suggestions. So I know exactly where in the course I'm talking about. If I open it up, let's try this one. It's telling me that, and see the captions one, you can't really trust because I know some of my stuff has captions, but some of it doesn't because this is a demo course. But I can go in, let me find a good one. Okay, links should contain text. So I know it's on the syllabus page and it is telling me I have an empty link. I can view the source right from here. So I would be able to use the You Fix It button to actually fix it, or if I prefer, I can just open up the page and go right into the Canvas editor. So you've got the option of doing it both ways. The free open source version of UDoIt requires hosting on a server. That could be somewhere on your college server, or if that's not possible, there is something called Heroku, which is a free cloud server, and that's an option that some schools are using. There's also a premium cloud-based version, which is hosted by, as part of the premium package, it's already hosted, but it does require purchase, and some colleges have done so. It also gives you more robust support and some other things. So it just kind of depends on your situation as to whether you're gonna, if you want to try it, whether you're going to go with the free version for now or upgrade to the premium. Again, on the accessibility page in the resource center, there's information about UDoIt, and there's also directions for installing the Heroku and UDoIt. So you got everything you need right there, assuming you have permission to do that kind of back-end technical stuff. Okay, let me see. Premium version of UDoIt fix. My understanding, DJ, is that UDoIt, I think, but don't hold me to it, but I am pretty sure it does it in Canvas, not a layer over it, kind of like Ally does. So I'm pretty sure the fix happens. I don't know though about the cloud versus, the premium versus free. So
yeah, I thought what you're saying is what I heard about the free version, that it's happening in our instance because we're hosting UDoIt in our instance. Exactly. So when faculty copy their courses, the UDoIt fixes copy. But when it's the cloud premium version, because the fixes are stored in their cloud hosting of UDoIt, when the courses are copied, the fixes aren't necessarily copied with
And that
it.
would
I'm
be a
just wondering if
drawback.
you've heard
Yeah.
that.
I have not heard that. So and I don't remember if I have the contact of the guy who gave us a demo. I'll see if I can find it, or maybe Mike, our tech guy, will know. But that would be something definitely to consider, or to ask if any college is exploring the premium version, to definitely ask them about that situation, so that all the fixes that happen don't end up going away when a course gets, if you share it in the course exchange, or you stop using Udouit, or whatever it is. So, okay, good question. Thank you. Last one I want to talk. Oh, good. I'm way ahead of time. So we're going to have plenty of time for more questions. So let me see. Can the overview be shared on the DE listserv? I don't have permission to share to the DE coordinator listserv. So no, I'm not able to do that. I'm sorry. However, this is being recorded, and we will put it on as always, the local POCR Resource Center site. It'll probably be on this accessibility page. That makes the most sense to put it there. So it'll, maybe I'll create a new category, but it'll be somewhere on this page as an overview of the different tools. So hopefully, Josh, that'll help. And Bob just put in, he put in the link. Thank you. All right, did I miss a question before I go on? Okay, I don't think I did. So Ally, let me go back out of here. And in our instance of Canvas, again, I'm in the OEI instance, it's called Accessibility Report. I don't believe that's what it's called for everybody. I could be wrong, but I think that link in the institutional course navigation may have different names. So you'd want to find out what it's called at your college. Like Udouit, Ally will do a course level scan. And a lot of people really love the little red, orange, green dials that indicate the accessibility of a page or a document. At first blush, it looks really great. It's definitely a prettier interface than anything we've seen so far. It's got all the colors, and it tells me, although really when I actually explored it, this isn't particularly helpful, because it's just telling me I have 24 pages in the course and 23 images and 2 PDFs. That's not helping me do anything in terms of making it more accessible. It's just giving me a pretty little, whatever kind of donut graph we call that. But it does give me information. So when I click view, it will show me those errors that it reported earlier. One of the things as an instructional designer working with faculty that I take issue with is, you'll notice the little green dial appears even if something is not particularly accessible. 68% in anybody's grading scale is a D. And so 68% accessible and a green dial gives instructors a false sense of how well their course is actually been made accessible. So it can be a little bit misleading, and then that can be frustrating for people to be told what they thought was accessible isn't actually accessible. When I click into something, so let me look at this image, MLK, it will show me the image and it will tell me what the problem is. It's missing a description. So I could go ahead and add the image description, which we know is actually alt text, and then click the add button. What I don't like, what I find difficult about this is it's not telling me where that image lives. So unless I know my course content like the back of my hand, I'm not going to necessarily know what page this is on if for some reason I wanted to remove the image or do something other than just add alt text. And maybe someone knows Ally better than I don't use it all that often. So maybe you know how you find what page it's on. But for me, it was not an entirely intuitive thing. And then the other issue that DJ alluded to, when you fix it, and I'm not going to know the proper technical terms for describing this, but the fix basically lives in an Ally layer. It's not actually changing it in the Canvas page. It's just changing it so that if somebody is in this instance where Ally has been installed and the fix has been made, they will see it done correctly. But what we have discovered is that, for example, when we go into a course from a college that is using Ally, but we're actually using our OEI identity, so we're really still using our OEI instance of Canvas, the fixes aren't necessarily there. It's kind of hit or miss. So just a drawback about that. What's nice about it is it does give you that course level reading. So I can pretty easily see what documents need. I don't have to look at every single document, although you can't always trust it. So you might want to look at every single document, but it does help you zero in on where there are potential issues. So it's, you know, kind of a, I don't know what the word is. I've lost my vocabulary today, but it's different than looking at page by page by page. It's just a different way of viewing the course. You still do have to go in though and fix all of the issues. None of these tools, with the exception of Popetek to a degree, will fix it for you. None of them will do documents for you. You're always going to have to go in and fix documents in a different way, but it can alert you to the presence of documents that have issues. One thing I will comment on, this particular document, it tells me, oops, it's only 6%, really bad. I don't even get the orange dial, I get totally red. It tells me the problem is that the document is untagged, which is great. And that is often an issue that makes PDFs inaccessible. But I happen to know, because I ran the the Adobe Acrobat checker on this particular document, it had way more issues than just missing tags. But from what Ally is telling me, the only thing I need to do to this document is create tags, and then it's good to go. So you just have to know the quirks of each of the tools in order to be able to use them most effectively. The last thing I'll say about Ally, and then I want to open it up for people that have experience with any of the tools to share or questions, is if I go, one of the things Ally offers, which is nice, is, why is it not doing it? Okay, let me try another one. No, of course not. Let me try one more, sorry. Okay, so it has this little A symbol with an arrow. And when I click it, it allows me to view the content in an alternate format, which can be a real boon for accessibility. So a student could choose if they wanted in electronic braille or an audio version or, you know, whatever it is. The thing to know is garbage in, garbage out. So if the page is not formatted properly to begin with, the the alternate format will not necessarily be any more accessible in terms of headings and alt text and lists and all that kind of stuff. The application may be more accessible for a student, but the content, unless it's been formatted properly, won't necessarily be more. So you just want to, again, be aware of how to use the alternate formats properly. Okay, I want to give you a couple of resources, and then I want to make sure we have lots of time for questions. So there is 2 Ally resources that I'm going to share with you, putting them in the chat. I also want to, whoops, that's not what I wanted. This is what I wanted. The local poker, you can go to the page and Bob put the link in the chat. I also created a little bit.ly link. So if you just do bit.ly accessibility toolbox with capital A, capital T, that'll take you there as well. It's a little bit easier to remember than the big long one. And so that'll have a lot of the resources that I just shared today, information about them, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. So if you're not familiar with that site, definitely recommend you go check it out. The recording for today I'll post it there. Another resource is the Course Design Resources shell. Again, if you're not familiar with it, I recommend it. It's a good resource, not only for instructors who are making their course aligned with the rubric. I've also just added a tab for reviewers. So it gives reviewers what to look for and where to look tips on how to, for each of the elements of the rubric. Again, I've done a bit.ly, so you can do OEI, course design. The capital letters, it is case sensitive, so you want to make sure if you are going to go to the bit.ly that you're paying attention to where the capitals are. And the last one is the Online Network of Educators site, which has a plethora of information and training opportunities, both free and low cost things that are available to you all as well as to your faculty. Okay, I missed a few things. Let me look. How do you fix nested image errors in Adobe for? Yeah, Ron, I'm sorry, Ryan, we can't go into how to do PDF stuff here. PDFs are a PIA. My recommendation is whenever possible, bring it into Canvas so that it's much easier to remediate. I do know Adobe has some very comprehensive tutorials, I believe both video and text-based. And so I would recommend doing a Google search if you're the one who's stuck doing the PDF work for that. But I wouldn't even know how, because I try to avoid remediating PDFs whenever possible. I'm sorry. Okay. Ally identifies flashing elements. Yeah, Ally does identify that. And most of the others don't have a mechanism for alerting you to that. So that is a good thing. I'm not saying Ally's horrible. I'm just saying there are a few things that people haven't been made aware of, so they're not able to use the tool as accurately as they could. And the first bit.ly is not working. Huh. Okay, well, let me. Oh, Helen, what are you doing? Now I'm all flustered. So the Accessibility Toolbox was that page that Bob had put in the chat earlier. Let me see if I can find it and I'll put it in there again. Thank you for your patience. Oh, for crying out loud. Well, there it is. I'll put it in chat. And thank you, Wanda. You put in the accessibility guide for Canvas. Perfect. And census access, somebody was just talking about it to me the other day, Sally. So thank you for mentioning it. I have heard really good things, but I know nothing about it. So I'm not able to speak intelligently. If you are willing, Sally, could you unmute for a moment and just tell us what it's able to do and what kind of content it helps with? And if you don't want to unmute, that's fine.
No, I was trying to get my headphone on. We checked it out, and you can remediate PDFs within 3 to 5 minutes. You just upload them, and it comes back, and they're almost perfect. And I think when you purchase it, we were just checking it out initially. When you purchase it, they actually give you the code then to make it into a Canvas page automatically.
Wow.
But the other thing is it can make Braille, it can make audio.
So alternate formats are built in.
Right.
Wow.
And it's cheap.
Excellent. So Bob, maybe we need to add that to the stacks list as our wish list for stack.
This is Ryan. What is that tool that you just described?
Census Access.
Census Access, right. I saw a demo of that product yesterday, coincidentally, and it was quite impressive. Again, you know, if garbage is coming in, it's
right.
not going to produce a perfect document coming out, but it's going to be better. It's going to be more accessible, and it is a pretty reasonable price. However, and right now, by the way, the CCC Accessibility Center offers a stripped down version of Census Access. They call their document converter. If you go to their website, it's also paid for through June 30th and maybe beyond. But the product that is being discussed now, their higher end product, can do more, bring in more formats, output more formats. And I was very impressed. So yeah, we'll keep our eye on that.
Great, thank you. And Ryan, did you get the name? I put it in chat so you'd see how it was spelled.
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. Allie, if you go to the Accessibility Center website, there is a page, I don't know what it's called, but I believe it is fairly clearly labeled, that will convert documents for you. As Bob said, it's not going to be perfect if the document that you're trying to convert has not been properly formatted in its original application, but it will convert things more accessibly than just trying to do it your little old self. And so it's on the Accessibility Center website. And Bob just found the link for you. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, Equidocs, it can be good too. I found it a little bit of a heavy lift to learn how to use it. It wasn't particularly intuitive, although I will say that was a couple of years ago, and they may have streamlined things and made it better than it was at that time. Okay, what other questions is anybody else using tools that they want to share about that would be helpful to us? Because we're all just trying to fill our accessibility toolbox so we've got options and know how to use them. I'm going to take a sip of water. I've stunned you into silence, huh?
This is Ryan. I have a quick question. I understand that with the accreditation, reaccreditation, AJ's, what is it? The
Academic Senate.
Yeah. ACCJC, a reaccreditation, that we'll be able to take documents and upload them eventually. This is what Ryan Corner said, to this software that will, and this company will just automatically fix the PDFs and all the documents that you have. Do you know anything about that?
I do not. Does anyone else? Have you heard inklings about something like that? I wonder if they're thinking or referring to the Accessibility Center tool that Bob just shared about, and maybe that's what they're talking about, or maybe they're planning to get everybody census access. I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I think they're still working on an agreement.
Well, that would be lovely.
That software, yeah, but it's for our reaccreditation.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't know anything, so I don't have an answer for you.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. One thing to keep in mind also, not only are PDFs and external documents can be problematic or a little bit more challenging to make accessible than using the rich content editor, it also can present a hurdle for students with bandwidth and that kind of stuff. So not only for accessibility issues, but also for access issues, it really is best when we encourage faculty to put their content directly in Canvas so students don't have to be going out and running into issues not only of accessibility, but also of access. What other questions do you have or comments?
This is Josh. I wanted to share just a little bit of my experience with Ally. So we have it at the district level, and I do like how it gives you the overview of the course and then lets you investigate further. When I did it, I didn't realize that it was only creating a layer. But I think the solution is, you have one instance of the Ally report on, say one monitor, and then you have the live version, and then you just go in there and, make
in the editor.
Make the change with the little man in the editor itself. I wanted to ask, this might kind of more, take a step back question, but these are obviously tools because there was an error either on our end or on us adopting a resource that wasn't accessible.
Right.
So I guess what's the tool, or what would you suggest to help to integrate this into our process so that we don't have to use these tools, right? So that we, right out the gate, we're getting these pages right, we're, incorporating that just into our overall design at the beginning, as opposed to, oops,
Yeah, exactly. And you've hit the nail on the head, Josh, that I think it's a matter of training faculty from the get-go, just like we do with punctuation. You don't teach somebody to write an essay and then come along later and say, oh, by the way, you need to add punctuation. We haven't talked about that yet, but now let me show you how to add punctuation to this. We want to make sure accessibility is part and parcel of course design. It's not a second thing that you do after you've designed your course. So it's really a matter of getting the word out, changing the culture in our institutions as well as in our system as a whole, so that everybody recognizes faculty need support in learning how to create content accessibly from the get-go, so it doesn't become a situation of retrofitting. And we're in a kind of awkward phase because everybody created before they knew what they didn't know about accessibility. So everybody has courses that have to be retrofitted. But from this point on, we want to start making sure everybody understands how to use the rich content editor properly, the difference between having it be in Canvas versus a PDF, you know, all that kind of information, so that they can, as you say, from the get-go, be creating content that's going to be accessible. I don't know that we want to throw away the tools altogether, because as masterful as I am, for example, at accessibility, I still find the occasional error on pages where I, you know, have an empty link or a heading is the wrong, you know, whatever. So I think it's good to have a backup, but your point is well taken, that we don't want people to have to go back and punctuate later. We want them punctuating as they're creating their course design. Does that?
Yeah, it does. And I just wanted to like highlight that it's useful. The way I thought about Ally, and I think about the little human, is it's like training me so that when I make pages in the future, that I don't replicate the mistakes.
Right.
And so I think if people think about these tools as a way of training yourself so as to avoid those mistakes in the future, then obviously the reliance on the tool will slowly decrease. But I do agree that it's nice to have it there, because it like validates, you know, the day will come where all of us will put a course through and run it through Ally, and it's 100%. You're like, I've learned.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Anything to add to Josh's comments from anyone? And let me see what Alex said.
This is Luay Al-Naji, or more parts.
Yes.
My students in fall, one of their assignments will be to literally create extensions for Chrome to do accessibility. So someone will write an extension to check for headers. The other will do.
We love you.
That's going to be done. Now, is there a way to fund this so that we can do an internship or something to create a product that will do everything these tools do, but not, I mean, eventually all the course, but at least per page. And it's doable. It's not an issue of difficulty. I could do it in like 3 weeks as a programmer, but it's nice our students to do it.
Yeah.
Is something
I don't know. And maybe Bob, since you're a higher level than you may know, but I would say starting with the Chancellor's office, but I don't know who at the Chancellor's office, or alternatively, I mean, I don't have a set answer for you. I'm sorry, but
no problem.
One of the like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, or one of those places that likes to give grants for things, might be a way to get started in terms of funding.
Okay.
Does somebody else have an idea to recommend for that?
Well, Helen, you mentioned the Chancellor's office, and they have an office that oversees many of these issues, DSPS as well as web accessibility. So yeah, that's a good place to start. Also, I found Dawn at the Accessibility Center to be quite a good resource and very knowledgeable. So I'll put her contact information in chat.
Thank you, Bob.
Might be worthy of talking to her about that too.
Yeah. Does that give you a place to start?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you for working on that. That's very exciting. And I'm probably not going to say your name correctly, but Sasa, absolutely agree. We need to en masse encourage publishers to get a little more proficient in the creating accessible content, so that we're not the ones having to take on that burden by ourselves. Other comments, other questions?
Yes, I came in a little bit late. I'm Rogelio.
Yes.
And I just missed, what do you mean by OEI? I missed it.
Thank you for the question. OEI stands for Online Education Initiative. It is a grant-funded program through the Chancellor's office, and we are working with our system, the California Community College system, on all kinds of different things. But basically, the main thrust of it is to support online teaching and learning so that students are having a more successful experience with their, and instructors are also having a more successful experience so that courses are fully resourced and students are completing courses successfully. Does that give you sort of a nutshell explanation?
I had some idea. I could only go as far as online education, and I couldn't figure out what the I was, but
Yeah.
thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for asking. Oh, and Bob put in Dawn's name at the and her email at the Accessibility Center. Okay, I guess I talked too fast at the beginning because we do have lots of time now, but I wanted to make sure. So anything other accessibility questions or any other experiences with one of the tools that somebody would like to share for the edification of us all? Okay.
Hey, Helen, I'll share something. I
Please.
was very impressed with your initial slide set, and some people who arrived late may have missed it, because it explained why it is so difficult for a machine or an application to do this for us, because artificial intelligence is not yet good enough to make the human choices that we need to make.
Right.
For instance, imagine a document that is unformatted. How do you tell a machine that that's the title, that's the main header, here's subheaders? You know, the semantic structure of the document is something the author or a learned faculty member has to select and tell the page what to do. How can you describe images with the machine looking at the picture? So some things I think will always be human controlled, but the technology does help us a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And I just saw it flashed by a question about Google Slides. There is another browser extension called Grackle, Grackle, and it is an accessibility checker designed for Google applications. And so you can go get that. And it, again, you have to format properly, but it will help you check to make sure you've got all the proper formatting, and then you can go in and correct whatever needs correcting. Oh, and Sue, you already put that in there. Thank you. Okay, Jim, Course on Water relies on current information. Yeah, government websites. Isn't it ironic that the government websites are often just really, they don't seem to have taken this class in accessibility. So it is very frustrating. And now that Bob is here, I probably shouldn't say this, but I don't think it's a surprise to him. I'm a rebel. So my recommendation whenever I work with an instructor who has to rely on government websites is contact them and say, I am required by law to have accessible website or accessible content, and I need your information. Can you please follow your own laws and make the site accessible? For what it's worth. But it is very frustrating, Jim. I agree with you.
Can I add this just briefly?
Yeah.
I use a lot of federal websites too, and it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point in time, because of their own laws and their non-compliance, I no longer get to give my students current information, which sometimes is daily, because they're breaking their own laws. I mean,
it's crazy.
I watched Catch 22 last night. Never watched it. You know what I mean. Thank you.
Yeah. There you go. So, oh, and Josh just put in a suggestion, talk to the chair of water subcommittee, and maybe, you know, go into the head honcho of that particular might help in that regard. But it is an issue. Anything else we should talk about today? Okay. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us. I will post the recording, and if you have questions, I play an accessibility expert on Zoom, but if you have really true accessibility questions, the Accessibility Center may be better for those, you know, more technical kinds of things. I look forward to talking to you in the future. Heather, you're asking, how much better is Popetek? Popetek is more, I would say, more robust in that it's both more accurate and, yeah, it's more accurate. The little accessibility checker in Canvas, I really only trust it for color, for tables, and it can help me with alt text. But I don't trust it for everything else. And so if you are able to get an experience with Popetek, I think you'll see that the combination of the two is really going to make it fabulous in terms of making sure pages are accessible.
And if I could extend her question, or maybe she asked it, what is your opinion, Helen, between Popetek and UDoIt? Which is better?
I don't know that one is better than the other. They both have their, you know, UDoIt currently gives us the course level, which can be really a boon in not knowing where I need to target my energy. But I like the fact that I'm on the page with Popetek and it just walks me through all the little things right there. So I'm actually seeing the content in context, not just the snippet of code that UDoIt has identified as problematic. So it really just kind of depends on how somebody likes to use something. I know that was that enough of an equivocation for you? Okay, today's recording, I am going to, and I will just say, I never make my PowerPoints available because I use them, if I may say so, the way a PowerPoint should be used, which is just as a little visual reminder. I don't put a lot of information on it. So the deck itself really isn't going to be very helpful to you. All of the resources that I talked about are on the Local Poker website. So you've got access to all of that. I will post the recording. What time is it? I have time. I think I will get it posted today, but we're going to send it for captioning. So if somebody needs captions, give us a week or so because we got to have the turnaround time from Caption Sync. So it'll be posted with nothing really, just the audio, and then the captions will come along in about 5 to 7 days. And as Bob points out, you can download the chat if you want to get all of the links in one place, although it'll be a whole lot of chat. So the website might be a little bit better. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. I always love talking about stuff and sounding like a know-it-all, which I do so well. So I appreciate the chance to be with you, and I will look forward to talking to you another time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.